What an incredible tribute to see so many here. So many here to celebrate the life of Sam Landsberger. I'm going to invite you all to take a moment and think of him. Think of a memory, think of something which might begin with, I remember when. Each one of us would have different memories. Hold that thought. Death has taken our beloved Sam, and friends and family grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation, in their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow may they find the presence of loving friends and family. For Sam's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For his companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continued through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness, and are now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give thanks, and we share in this time of sorrow. Is there a sorrow greater than this? Greater than losing Sam at the age of only 35? No one should have to bury their child. Let our silence reach out to the bereaved. Let their tears fall on us, let their anger break against us. Let our love and our deeds speak for us. In the presence of boundless grief, the poet said, Ein od tefillah bisfatai, there is no longer a prayer on my lips, and so we weep, because we can do nothing else. And we gather around Sam's stricken family. Help them draw near to one another in their need for love and for strength. Teach us to place our arms around them and around each other and to grieve with them. The Ecclesiast said, for everything there is a season, a time for every experience under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and ultimately, a time to speak. When our ancient poet king experienced the depths of despair, he searched for comfort and sang the words of the 121st Psalm.
מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי ממדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ. אל ייתן למוט רגליך, אל ינום שומרך, הנה לא ינום ולא יישן, הנה לא ינום ולא יישן, שומר ישראל, אדוני שומרך, אדוני צילך, על יד ימינך, על יד ימינך, יומם השמש לא יככה, וירח בלילה. אדוני ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך. אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם.
The living, breathing presence shall guard your going out and your coming in, now and forevermore. And so we are assembled with our friends in the darkness that has fallen upon us. We raise our voices together, asking for comfort and strength. We need light when gloom darkens our lives. We need fortitude and courage when pain and loss assail us. May we find these in loved ones and companions. Who among us has not passed through trials and bereavements? Some bear fresh wounds in their hearts and therefore feel more keenly the kinship of sorrow. Others whose days of mourning are more remote still recall the comfort that sympathy brought to their sorrowing hearts. David Harkins wrote these words that seem so very apropos to Sam. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he'll come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has left behind. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or your heart can be full of the love which you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back. Or you can do what he would have wanted. Smile. Open your eyes. Go for the Bulldogs. But most importantly, love and go on. And so I began by inviting you to think of him and think of a memory of something which might begin with I remember when. So many tributes have been pouring in over the recent days. But I've asked a few people to share their personal memories. Jacob and Anne, would you begin?
Approximately 22 years ago, our family stood in this same spot in this wonderful big hall. And we were in this room celebrating Sam's bar mitzvah. What a wonderful, joyous occasion that was. Now we find ourselves in this exact same room in utter and complete devastation. Oh my goodness, where do I start? I heard so many times during my life and so many quotes that parents should never ever have to bury their children. Yet here we are doing exactly that. Anne and I are totally lost for words at the incredible tributes and love that has been absolutely overwhelming to us since his tragic passing. But then, should we be at all surprised? He was an incredible, hard-working, dedicated journalist who loved his job. Thank you on all our family's behalf for the amazing wishes and support. From all his work friends and all his colleagues and everyone else for their attendance, and so many people here today is incredible to see. He was an utterly amazing wordsmith. His articles were a joy to read. Far more importantly, he was a caring, wonderful son to us and a caring and wonderful brother to Sarah and Jess. He brought so much joy into all our lives. We've seen repeated messages of how he lit up a room when he walked in. Well, he lit up our entire lives. We were first alerted by his grade 2 teacher at school, Mrs. Templeton, who told Anne and myself at a parent-teacher meeting that only rarely, once in a lifetime, does a special young man come along. A diamond, she called him. How prophetic, those words. We are asked to think of memories, and there are so many memories that flood of his early childhood. Some of those, many of those, include him coming each week with me and with his oldest sister Jessie to every football game, every Bulldog game. One of the memories that I remember was when he was about 10 years old, in the middle of the game, and I was sitting on the bench. During the game, Jessie came and banged on the glass at the bench and called out to me. I turned around and Sam had vomited all over his front. His chest was bright yellow. During the game, I actually picked him up over the fence and we walked into the rooms so I could check that he was okay. Once I got in the rooms, I discovered that the reason he vomited and was covered in yellow was because he'd just consumed an entire jumbo box of Cheezels. After the game, so many people in the rooms and walking to the car, total strangers, came up to me and said, "Who was that little boy that you were walking around the boundary line with in a yellow Bulldogs jumper?" From that time on, and one of the instigators of that, I'm going to ad-lib here for a sec, is actually in the crowd here, and that's Scott West, because from that time on, Scott was one of the very first people, and it spread like wildfire around the club, and eventually every member of the club and most of the playing group, when they saw Sam, would call him Cheezels. "Hey Cheezels, how you going? Hey Cheezels, how's your mum and dad going? You come into the game, in the rooms before the game, there's Cheezels in the corner." We could all go on for hours about our incredible, so much loved young man who's been taken from us so far too soon. But I won't, because there's no need. I don't need to go on because everyone here knows, as we do, and knows how we feel about how incredible he was. At this moment, it's indescribable devastation that we feel, but also so much underlying love and gratitude for what he gave to all who knew him. Rest in peace, a beautiful, gorgeous young man, a beautiful, gorgeous, caring young man who will never be forgotten and who will always be in our hearts.
Sam is the wordsmith in our family, and me, I'm his Annie. And Annie is extremely biased. When the girls were babies, I kept saying to Jacob, "Someone's missing." I didn't want a son, I just wanted another baby. And Jacob said, "Let's just get a goldfish." Anyway, I got my way, I had my baby, I had him for 35 years, and now he's missing. So Sam and I are both Brices, and the name Brice has passed down for many generations. And now, thankfully, we have a little Ziggy called Zygmunt Brice Jones. I have many cherished memories that involve laughing and walking, and more walking around the Tan, around Albert Park, Boathouse. And wherever we went walking, we always stopped for coffee and no cake. But we had many, many brunches. Sam, as a child, often went shopping with me for groceries. We'd be buying toilet paper and cheese, a bit of fruit, and then he'd say innocently, "Do the girls need pads?" Always. I loved picking him up from prep. I can still remember his warm little hand we'd walk across the tennis court to the car park. And talking about school, he was the only child in the class that had such poor motor skills. He was allowed to use a pencil that was as thick as a toilet paper roll. He could not grasp anything. I had such poor motor skills, he couldn't kick a ball. So I spent hours in the park trying to teach him how to kick. I had no idea either. Maybe I was the problem. We were walking in Noosa Park once with his friend Charles, who's sitting over there, and we got very lost up the back of the park somewhere, and they didn't have a care in the world. I was so nervous and frightened. Sam always claimed I was calm, but not calm that day. Today, inside his coffin, is him with him is his quilt. I made a quilt for him during COVID, and he used it daily. He'd lie under it, over it. It was always on his bed or on his lounge chair. And he would tell everyone proudly that my Annie made this for me. There are many shapes significant on it for him. So he will have me hugging him forever, surrounded by our family's love. In the Herald Sun during the week, there was a caricature of Sam by Sam Knight. Mark Knight. It really made me smile, because is Mark Knight here? I don't know. Where? Oh, thank you. You actually captured my dad. That was perfect. Talking about Lloyd, my dad, my dad, Sam was a clone. He looked so similar, had a skinny face, big ears. And although separated by a huge distance, they didn't see much of each other. Same habits and behaviours, always teasing, always rubbing someone's head, annoying. Also, Dad and Sam were incredibly kind. They were extremely calm, never judgmental, and went over the top to help with any problem. Always interested to know that he could help if he could. Sam and Dad were wonderful people. So I wanted this baby Sam, so I grew him. I delivered Sam, I nurtured Sam, and so grateful that I was with Sam right to the end when he passed away virtually on the footpath. So we were together forever. Today we have Nigel Baines with us. He and Sam shared quite a few common interests. He's my nephew from New Zealand. We're very, very thankful he's travelled over. Thank you, Nigel. Together and always and forever, whenever we signed off, it was hooray. We always said hooray. So hooray, Sam, but I know you haven't gone. There will always be a massive hole in my heart. I just simply treasured you, and I know you treasured me. Go join Granny and have some more fun. She used to reprimand him all the time. Granny passed away several months ago. I love you and will forever. I want to thank Jessie and Sarah, Brandon and Arun for so much love and support the last few days. You've been amazing. I also want to thank our many friends for being available, reaching out and providing comfortable, yummy food. Rest in peace, my darling boy. I love you.
Some of my earliest memories of Sam include him travelling the streets in his pushchair, rocking out to Michael Jackson in some form of an early 1990s mini boombox in his pushchair. You can only imagine the stares that Mum and Dad got down Church Street. More vividly though, I remember toddler Sam being absolutely obsessed with the movie The Rocky Horror Picture Show. If you don't know what it's about, I suggest you Google it. Mum would have to go to Blockbuster numerous times a week and ask to hire it out. And apparently she got asked often if she thought it was appropriate because she was in tow with Sam. For the last couple of years, there's been an ongoing joke inside our family, mainly between Sam and my husband Brandon, that because Sam is a journalist, he only deals in facts. And this meant every time something was questioned, which happened a lot with Sam, he would very shamelessly remind us that, of course it was true because he only deals in facts. So in the spirit of Sam, I want to share some facts today. Fact, I certainly didn't get the writing gene that Sam got. So for at least the last decade or decade and a half, Sam has either written from scratch or heavily amended every important piece of writing I've ever had to produce. Important emails, cover letters, my resume, whenever I've need to ask for a pay rise, speeches, the list goes on and on. So it now seems that I'm utterly screwed. This is the first speech Sam hasn't been able to help me with, and I think it shows. But I can tell you when I was writing this, I thought the whole time, how would Sam make this sound better? And even just having the thought of that and trying to embody his knack for writing got me through writing this speech today. And I promise every important piece of writing moving forward, I'll just ask myself, how the hell would Sam make this sound better? Fact, Sam started the craze of calling Mum Annie many moons ago. Mum absolutely hated it. She'd constantly say, Sam, my name is Anne, and actually it's Mum to you. However, it took off like wildfire, and Mum hasn't been called Anne much since. So sorry, Mum. In Sam's honour, Annie is now here to stay. Fact, Sam also started calling our granny G. Again, that took off in our family and never left. Fact, Sam would never be able to sit next to Mum or his Annie without ruffling her hair the whole time. It was so annoying. And he never stopped to this day. These penchants for affectionate nicknames and gestures, no matter how annoying they could be, are a testament to the playful and loving side of Sam. And this playful and loving side of Sam, when he was with my family, are in fact the happiest last memories I have of him. With Sam and our kids. He was the most doting uncle, and they all truly adored him. Fact, Sam called Ziggy, my 2-year-old, his best friend. Ziggy and Sam could play together for hours, and they loved to have running races together. Sam would often tell me, I don't think I'll be beating Ziggy for long. Reckon I've only got a few years in me tops. The way Sam was with his niece Sarah and his nephews really amplified to me why he was such a good brother. He's always been such a caring, kind, and loving, gentle boy. My whole life, he's always supported me and checked in on me. And he was always there when I needed him, even when I was in the US for so long. We never went more than a day or two, really, without speaking. We travelled a lot together, and I loved his visits to the US. We really enjoyed each other's company. We got on so well. I love him so much, and I'll miss him daily. I already miss him. I love you, Sam, my beautiful little brother.
Our beautiful Sam. As your big sisters, we never thought we'd have to sit down and prepare to write anything like this. While the last week has been the hardest of our lives, it has allowed us to reflect on the amazing person you truly are. I wanted to start with what most people know you for today, your incredible talent for sports writing, and I emphasise writing. We've always joked that as a family, we don't have the sporty gene compared to some of our cousins, but let's just say you are so lucky you had a skill in sports journalism, because sports on its own for you was an utter disaster. As a small boy, Mum had to put you in a helmet at home for years because your little body couldn't quite figure out how to go down the one step we had without using your head to break the fall. Fast forward about 10 years later, when I had to help Dad stitch your eye because you thought it was a good idea to try and catch a cricket ball with your face. But the real kicker for me was the night before a job interview at Holden, which I helped get you, I might add. You thought it would be a good idea to take a specky during a mixed netball game and ended up dislocating your kneecap. It won't surprise most people that the majority of my memories with Sam circle around our passion for the footy and our beloved Western Bulldogs. Whether it be my earliest memories of the two of us sitting in the freezing cold at Whitten Oval or Waverley Park, attending training with Dad, watching Sam throw up an entire box of bright orange cheesels in the middle of the cheer squad, having the players tell us that they could hear us yelling and swearing from our front row seats at Marvel, or the countless interstate trips we took together, or the many, many texts we'd share between games that we couldn't be together at. Even just last weekend, you were excitedly telling me how you thought our boys could go all the way, and we were planning our first interstate finals trip together in 10 years. Even just yesterday, several times, I started to text you and then had to realise that I couldn't do this anymore. It breaks my heart that our dream of us going to the football together with our kids will never happen. And while watching our doggies will never be the same, I will always cherish these moments we had together. Like many siblings, Sam and I had unfortunate nicknames for each other earlier in life. I called him Podge, he called me Fatty. I can't remember the exact origin why, but I can only assume it's because one or both of us had put on a little weight, and we of course had to repeatedly point that out to each other. What I wouldn't give to hear you call me Fatty one more time, or forever if it would bring you back. Sam, your care for your family was always a priority. Even when Sarah and I were living on the other side of the world, you made sure to take the time to come to the US regularly, and were more than happy to just sit on the couch catching up, and as time progressed, getting to know and playing with our beautiful kids. Watching you become an uncle and the instant love you had for your niece and nephews was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. We will forever miss seeing their little faces light up any time you came around for a play and hearing them yell, "Uncle Sam, push me on the swing." Just last week, seeing the picture Zara drew you almost a year ago and the painting from Mason proudly displayed on your fridge brought tears to my eyes. I promise you, our kids will know how amazing their uncle was and how much he loved them, and it will never be forgotten. I didn't want to put the kids through the pain of today, but Zara, being the beautiful and empathetic girl that she is, asked that I read something for her Uncle Sam on her behalf. Dear Sam, I'm really going to miss you. I loved how you pushed me on the swing, took me for ice cream, would come stay with us and pick me up from school. Thank you for teaching me about the Bulldogs. I'm really sad I won't get to see you again, but I promise I'll get a picture of you and put it up in my room. I love you. From Zara. To our wonderful little brother, we can't even begin to describe the hole you've left in our lives, but I want the whole world to know how proud of you we were, how much we loved you, and how much we will miss you. Fly high, Sam. I know you will be protecting us until we meet again.
Ben Mahoney wrote these words and asked that I read them on his behalf. I've known Sam for nearly 25 years now. He befriended me on my first day of school at Brighton Grammar, when I was the new kid who just moved back to Australia from the States. Sam and I remained best mates even after he left for Melbourne High, even after we went to separate universities, got different jobs and moved in different friendship circles. Even after I made the move to London 6 years ago, ironically, I think we became even closer after I left, forced to keep in more regular contact without the safety net of being able to physically catch up regularly in person. It would be impossible for me to cram every single thought or feeling I have about Sam into one piece of writing, and I'm not quite sure how to pick a memory of Sam that accurately describes everything that made him great. So I thought I'd take the easy way out and recall the most recent example of Sam being an amazing friend after a lifetime of stories like this. I told the select group of friends and my parents that if my beloved Pies made it to the grand final last year, I'd fly from London to Melbourne for the game. When the siren went at the end of our win in the preliminary final, the first name to pop up on my phone wasn't my mum or dad, it was Sam. Don't know how yet, but I'm getting you a ticket to the granny. A couple of days later, as I sat at Heathrow Airport, I told Sammy I'd see him in 24 hours and not to worry about the ticket. A mate's dad had sorted me out with entry, standing room only, but that was good enough for me. I would have watched the game from the light towers if I had to. I'd never even been to a grand final, let alone a Collingwood grand final. Sam's replied, "Nah, that's not good enough. I'm getting you a seat." And 5 minutes later from Sam, "I've got a plan." I'm a Sam with a plan. A 3.5-minute voice note soon followed, and while I'm probably not at liberty to reveal the exact details of the plan Sam had hatched, sure enough, when the ball was bounced at 2:30 that Saturday, I had a seat. The ticket Sam gave me that day currently sits laminated and framed in front of me on my desk. Grand Final Day 2023 was previously the greatest day of my life, but it's taken on an even greater significance to me now as I returned to London soon after. And while we'd messaged nearly every day since, that was the last time Sam and I were together in person. What's replaced the Dacos handball and the Degoe goal as my favourite moments of the day are the memories of the time I got to spend with Sam that day and that night. The image of him sneaking into the MCC members area wearing a shirt with no collar and designer ripped jeans shorts just so he could share a pre-game drink with me to calm my nerves. Or the image of him later that night, middle of the D floor, one finger pointing in the air, jumping up and down, singing along to the deep bass remix of good old Collingwood. I'm not sure I should ask everyone to sing along in a rendition right now. He was genuinely as excited to share the moment with me as I was with him over the nights, weeks, and months we spent together, appropriately celebrating the Doggies' drought-breaking win in 2016. When I tried to explain to Sam that night that he was responsible for the greatest day of my life, in typical Sam fashion, he just shrugged it off. "Nah, it's nothing, mate, but how about those pies?" This was a recurring theme with Sam. Every time I tried to congratulate him for each of his many awards, accolades, Ripper articles, he'd shrug it off with a, "Yeah, nah, cheers, mate, but how's London? How's Shaz? When are you coming back?" I can't recall who coined the term, and apologies for not giving credit, but one of the lovely tributes I saw about Sam on Twitter uses the phrase disproportionately excited, which was incredibly accurate. He'd casually deflect any compliment or adulation coming his way, but when the roles were reversed, he would be the one jumping out of his skin to celebrate someone else's good news or achievement. Sam was a great friend during the good times, but an even better friend during the bad times. He'd be the one blowing your phone up if you were going through a rough patch, dedicating himself to being the one to pull you back up again. A 5-minute conversation with Sam would yield 3 to 4 inside jokes we'd throw back at each other for years, completely incomprehensible to anyone not party to the 5-minute conversation. Usually people you meet are as kind and thoughtful as Sam are boring as batshit, but not Sam. I'm quoting. He's the funniest person I know who would bring the most energy to whatever room he was in. I've read, listened to, and watched every single word said about Sam in the last week. And what's obvious is we all knew the exact same Sam. He'd show the same level of thoughtfulness and care for his mates of 20 plus years as he would to a first-week intern at the Herald Sun. My parents adore Sam, particularly my mum Sharon, who Sam would keep in regular contact with. Since I moved to London, Mum would often hear from Sam more than she'd hear from me. And he'd help her feel connected to me on the other side of the world. Over the years, during sleepovers, parties and catch-ups, Sam was always the friend who'd wait behind when everyone else had headed off to help clean up and have a genuine chat with my parents, and I'm sure this was the same at any of his other friends' house, too. I'll never be able to make sense of what has happened, and there will forever be a large Sam Landsberger-shaped void in my life. However, the overwhelming feeling with me today is one of absolute gratitude to Sam and his family, and how truly lucky and blessed I was to have him in my life for so long. Very few people ever get a friend like Sam, even fewer do, for as long as I have. And for that I am forever truly grateful for the many memories we have together. I've even started to remember some of the nights we'd promised each other we'd forget. Sam had so much more to give this world, but gee whiz, he certainly gave a lot while he was here. To Jake, Annie, Jess, and Sarah, I hope you know how much Sam adored you all. Mum and I are here for you whenever, wherever, or for whatever you need. I've got several lifetimes worth of memories with Sam that I look forward to sharing with you over the coming years. To Sammy, I miss you, mate. Thank you for everything. I'd like to invite Will and Jared to come forward and share a few words.
Hello everyone, my name's William Kim. I, like a lot of the attendees here today, was a school friend of Sam at Melbourne High, the class of 06. I first remember meeting Sammy on the Sandringham line on our way to school together. I remember walking up to him as he was listening to an MP3 player, which was all the rage back in the day, and this thing had a big Western Bulldogs logo on it. And I remember asking him, hey, what music are you listening to? Sam replied, I'm listening to radio. Radio? Who listens to radio? It's 2003, brother, you're living in the 90s. I thought to myself, well, Sam listened to radio, and it was pretty clear early on that he had a huge penchant for media, and more specifically, sports media. A couple of years later, he did end up getting that iPod, and I remember looking through the songs that he had loaded onto this thing. And to my absolute shock, half of the files on this iPod were AFL Football Club theme songs. And he listened to them too, believe it or not. What a weird guy. Not only did he live and breathe football, but he listened to it too. He loved his footy so much, but he adored his growing family even more. He really did. Especially you, Annie. He talked about you all the time. He loved you so much. Sammy, Elliot, and I, we actually shared an apartment for a few years just across the road from Fox Footy on Dorcas Street. And in his very messy bedroom, he had this bedside table. And on the bedside table were perched two things. Firstly, it was his Quill Award that he just won, which is a big award in the journalism industry that he was very proud of. And alongside that was a picture of yourself, Annie. That bedside table was really symbolic of what he really cherished in life. But there was one other thing that he loved even more above everything else, and believe it or not, that was Asian food. He loved noodles so much. He loved Asian food more than I did. And my life kind of revolves around it. And our little inside joke that we had was that he was in fact the real Asian, and I having grown up just around the corner in Elstonwick, I was actually the Jew. Oh my God. So yeah, looking back at the photos and the memories that we created over the past 22 years, yeah, it's so difficult to find a favourite because there were just so many. Sam and I were really lucky to visit every continent on Earth, with the exception of Africa, holidaying. It was our thing. But one memory that really stands out to me was that trip that the boys took about 10 or so years ago in South America. 6 of us took the best part of a month off work to live the life in South America, and it was a true adventure. And we were also happy just being amongst each other on the other side of the world in a culture that we didn't understand. We went out every single night, really, we did, on that trip. And at the end of every night, Sammy would assign a Brownlow medal-style voting system for best on ground. 3 votes, 2 votes, 1 vote. And it was not unusual for him to return to the hostel the morning after at about 6 a.m, whilst other hostel guests were having their breakfast. He would assign himself 3 votes and then go to bed. He won the Brownlow medal that trip, I think it's fair to say. And it wasn't even close. So my last moments with Sam was earlier this month, in fact. And I live in Sydney, and I flew down from Sydney just to see him, nobody else. I didn't even tell any of the other boys I was coming. So we could get our tuxedos tailored together for my wedding next month. See, yeah, Sam was actually supposed to be best man at my wedding next month, and he was supposed to be saying a few nice words about me. And not the other way around. You know, how cruel and unpredictable life can be sometimes. We had a few drinks at the bar, watched the Dogs game on our phone. No, on his phone actually, on his cracked iPhone. And we spoke about our goals for the future. For one last time, it was old school Sam, right? It was the Sam of old. We did so much together, but one thing we never really did was express our appreciation and love for one another. So Sammy, in front of everyone here, in front of the world, man, I just wanted to say thank you for being such a great friend over the past 20 years. I love you, and I'll miss you so much. Thank you.
We first met Sam back in 2005 in Year 9 at Melbourne High. That instant bond has sustained 20 years, and some of Sam's closest friends back then are still his closest friends today. We weren't the most athletically gifted bunch, but we all loved talking sport, and especially footy. I recall once when Sam and I sat in business management class, diligently scribbling away, passing sheets of paper back and forth. Our business management teacher eagerly came over to find out which part of the syllabus had captured our attention. He was then enraged to find out that instead, we had spent the class trying to list out hypothetical state of origin lineups for that year. From memory, mind you. Scrunched into a ball and out the window they were tossed, our day's work ruined. If only that teacher could have seen how many times you got paid to write up best 22 since then, maybe he wouldn't have been so harsh. They say you really get to know someone when you travel with them. Well, we certainly did with Sam, and we kept going back for more. Sam loved to travel, whether it was his cherished trips to Noosa with his family, travelling to New Zealand with Annie, visiting his sisters in the US, the cricket tours, or the trips with his mates. On holiday, Sam was in his element, a glint in his eye like a fast bowler on Boxing Day given the new ball. Over the years, we were lucky enough to join Sammy on trips to Thailand, Singapore, the US, Vietnam, India, Vietnam, South America, Vietnam. Sammy really loved a spring roll and a pho.
Vegas.
I was lucky enough to spend 2 weeks together in India with Sam watching the T20 World Cup, a real busman's holiday for Sammy. We'd just watched Australia beat Pakistan and Mohali and set about making it back across town to our hotel. We'd both skimped on the roaming charges, so an Uber wasn't an option. With light fading fast, we were wandering further and further away from the ground in search of an elusive cab. A local family drove past and stopped. "Oh, you're from Australia," pointing to our matching one-day shirts. Like Glenn Maxwell, who was the star of the IPL team at the time. "Can we get a photo?" Sammy replied, "Yeah, absolutely, but can we get a lift?" "You know, I know Glenn Maxwell." And with that, we piled into the car with Dad and his 2 kids, and Sammy shared a few anecdotes about interviewing the Big Show in exchange for a drive across town. Never a dull moment in the company of Sammy. Among all the touching tributes this week, one common theme shone through. Sammy was kind. To be part of his inner circle was to truly understand how kind. I was touched to see the screenshots from my sister and wife this week of well wishes Sam had sent them over the journey, birthdays, weddings and funerals. Sammy never missed a chance to let you know he was there for you. After my dad passed a few years back, Sam and I were spending an afternoon at the VFL. Standing on the terrace at Port Melbourne had reminded me of a time Dad and I were watching the Saints play at Moorabbin, and our picture had appeared in the paper the next day. I recounted that memory to Sam and reminisced about how that clipping had been pinned to Dad's wall in the shed for years to come. A few months later, Sam showed up at my door with a giant canvas print. I was in tears. He'd figured out the game, found the paper, tracked down the photographer, and got it printed for me. The lengths he would go to for those he loved were limitless. It is one of my most cherished possessions. I know Sammy would have been so touched to read the kind tributes this week from those who knew him best and those who just got the chance to cross paths with him. But I can imagine him giving us some feedback. Mate, that's rubbish. I'm no rising star. I'm one of the best journos in Melbourne. Beneath the humility was always a brush confidence. And I might be biased, but I reckon he'd be right. Back page after back page, the breaking news, the features, he did it all. The cricket tours, the Big Bash, the Australian Open, and then back into footy. To us, he was a rising star from the time we'd buy his papers every Monday to read our mates' VFL match reports. As we watched by his side or from afar as he travelled the world, we were so proud of our best mate. Barbs, Bugsy, Doc, Kiddo, Kimbo, Charmander, definitely not our birth names, but Sammy had a nickname for everyone. To us, he was just Cobb. Bye, Cobb, you will be so sorely missed.
Let me emphasise that these were just a few of the vast selection of tributes. The outpouring has been remarkable. David, our Shepherd King, expressed his trust in these words of the 23rd Psalm.
Adonai roi lo echsar binot deshe yarbitzeini על מי מנוחות ינחלני, נפשי ישובב, ינחני במעגלי צדק, למען שמו אדוני רואי, לא אחסר, גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות לא ירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי. דשנת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה, רוויה. אך טוב בחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. Adonai is my shepherd, I have no needs.
God causes me to lie down in green pastures, leads me beside the still waters, restores my soul, guides me in straight paths for God's own name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and staff comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my adversaries. You smooth fragrant oils on my head. My cup is filled to overflowing. Goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall live in the house of the living, breathing presence forever. And so we come almost to the conclusion of this memorial service. In a few moments we'll conclude, and then we'll accompany Sam to Springvale Cemetery. For those who wish to join us, you can either follow the hearse and the family or join us there. The burial will take place at 12:30. And then we are all at a loss. What can we possibly say when we've lost such an amazing, marvelous young man? The difficulty is when you see the family. Try not to ask them, "How are you?" Because on a day like today, how could you possibly be? Instead, Jewish tradition is that we might wish you long life that he was robbed of. Or we might wish you of simchas, basmachot, that we should meet in times of joy, the kinds of times that Sam would have wanted to share with you. Or the old saying, "May you live till 120, which is the length of the life of Moses. We've changed by one letter, and now instead of "May you live till 120, we say, "May you live till 100 as if you were 20. I think Sam would have preferred that, don't you? And I gather he lived accordingly. And so there's a memorial prayer. And then we'll invite all of you to stand but remain here for a moment as the family and Sam precedes us. And then if you do have a moment with the family afterwards, try to share a memory. There's really nothing more consoling or meaningful than something which might begin with, "I remember when Sam ... The mind boggles already. Please rise.
אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים, אמצעי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, עם קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת
Samuel Brice Landsberger, Shmuel ben Yaakov ומרים.
שלח לעולמו בעל הרחמים, יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen.
Source of compassion, you who live beyond our comprehension, grant perfect rest to the soul of Sam who has departed from this world. Source of mercy, bring him into your presence. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. May you be his possession, and may he rest in peace, and we say, Amen. And so just as we began with a tradition of tearing a garment, and this tradition reflects that the heart is broken, that something within us is broken. And so each of the immediate family members tore a garment, an external expression of the internal brokenness. And we said the words, Baruch Dayan Haemet Meimitu Mechayeh. Blessed are you, Judge of truth, who ordains death and yet summons us to life. Adonai Natan, God has given. V'Adonai Lakach, God has collected back. Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach, blessed be the name of Adonai. Baruch Atah Adonai, Dayan Haemet, blessed are you, Adonai, Judge of truth. And so the dust returns to the earth as it was, the Spirit returns to the source from which it came. It is only the house of the Spirit to which we now say farewell. The Spirit itself cannot die. Here too, Sam continues in loving remembrance of all those to whom he was so very precious. And so receive in mercy the soul of our departed Sam. Grant him that everlasting peace which you have laid up for us in the world that is yet to be, though no human eye has seen, nor ear has heard, nor mind has compassed it. It is still our sure inheritance and our everlasting portion. And so I'll invite everyone to remain where you are as the family precedes us. And for those joining us at Springvale Cemetery, you are welcome to join us there or follow along behind the hearse.